All right. Okay, so this week, what we're gonna do is to talk about loops, right? So loops, basically, you can think about it as extension of branching statement that we talked about last week. So why I'm saying that, okay? So for example, if you have a game, for example, you have a character that lost in the forest, and you're going to make a constant decision whenever you have a new screen and you want to make decision if you want to go to left or right. And after you go to the left, you will go back to the same, scenario, and you have to make another choice. So if you want to program this with just the if statement, you are going to do a lengthy program with if, if you exit right, you can set the background to what's background, right? And then if you keep saying it go to right, then you will always be in the what's background. But unless you set elsewhere, like exit left, then you exit background. So finally, this else statement will catch the exit condition where you end this game. So this looks like a tedious coding structure, right? Because you don't never know how many if statement you have to do. So with that, we invented, or Python rather, have a construct called while loop, where you can put your exit condition here. Oh, actually, yes. So when this is true, that means you're gonna continue looping, right? You're gonna do whatever in this segment. So it's it's just like an if statement. You have a condition and you have a colon, that's important, with the white background, sorry, the tab or white space to separate to show that there is a body of the loop. And then once you're done, of course, you go back to the spacing and they continue with the logic, right? You do something else. So the exit condition basically means like when you're going to exit the while loop. So that's very natural construct, right? Easy to understand. And typically in a game, including the text-based game that can implement this project, while loop is very common because of game loop, right? And then sometimes your exit condition are not clear, meaning you don't know when to exit, but there is some natural condition developed when you're playing the game. So you will be able to sometimes see this, right? Basically this is the common construction for the while loop, okay? Just so you know. So sometimes you will, okay, let me finish this. So sorry. While loop can be used as a check for the user input sometimes, right? Because users are terrible. They always give you the wrong input that expected in a program. So you will friendly remind if you're not getting me the right answer, you will keep prompting the user, say, can you give me a good answer? And if you have the good answer, then you can say, you're good. So that's one construct. Let's see. I want to talk about the break conditions. Let's see. Okay, here you go. So break statement. Sometimes you want to break out of the while loop because, for example, you're searching a telephone number, all right, in a telephone book, and you find your number, then you don't need to go through the whole, maybe the telephone is very long, right? You want to be efficient. Once you find it, you can exit loop early. So break will let you exit that loop early, okay? And oftentimes you can actually nest loops inside the loops, right? So this is called a nested loop, where you have a while condition 2, where you do the inner loop, and then once you finish all the inner loop, then you go back and increment the counter on the outer loop and you go through the inner loop again. So the total number of operations will be the number of outer loops times the number of inner loops, right? So it's a multiplication. But if you break, it only skipped the innermost loop. Just keep in mind, if you have multiple loops, and it will go back to the outer loop, continue. If you only have one level of nesting, then it will continue, it will just break outside loop. So that's break statement, okay? And then there's another type of loop called for loop. For loop basically is suitable when you know how many times you want to loop through that body, right? So typically this is like, you have a variable, typically a counter, and the counter can increment. And so basically you're familiar with this in structure, right? So in Python, in a list or container, that means you are getting one number at a time from that list or container. Range function will produce a number at a time. So if you have a range of 100, it'll give you the number from 0 to 99, right? And then it will guarantee that every time you go through the body, it will increment the counter, and it go back to the loop until the counter reach the predefined range, like 100. Okay, so for loop is also very natural, and this is a common way to do it. And we already talked about the range function, and you know that it has 3 parameters. You can skip, you know, 2 of them, optional: start, stop, and step. And remember, start is included, stop is not included, step is optional. You can do -1 step to go backwards, right? So we talk about this in our exercise to reverse the string, remember? So here is an example. You have accumulator, and from 7 to 10, you add the number from 7 to 10, right? Here you have a range of 5 to 11, skip 2. So basically it's a 5, 7, 9, 11 is not included, and you add them together, right? So that sum will be a summation of 5, 7, 9. All right, so you can nest loops, you can nest a for loop as well. So what happened in this program? So I'll give you some time to read this code, and you can tell me in your head, what's my number after this loop. See if you can understand. I'm sharing the screen, right? Just make sure. Very good, you'll get correct answer. So yeah, my number is 5. And I don't want to elaborate further. So what's the difference between for loop and while loop? When shall you use it? Like I said, for loops you typically use if you know number of iterations before you enter the loop. You know, and it typically use a counter as a variable from a return range, and you can always rewrite the for loop if I use a while loop. Now for the while loop, typically you don't know how many times you want to iterate. Sometimes you have a condition, but you don't know when the condition is met, right? Sometimes you can enter into an infinite loop. So, and you can always end early using the break statement. And that's true for the for loop as well. You can use a counter, but you must initialize before the loop. So what I mean is, in the for loop, you can start the counter as the same sentence, but in the while loop, you have some condition with a counter, like that here. You can see this one. Okay, where is the while loop? Here you go. While loop. Yeah, this is a counter, right? And you actually keep adding 1. This is similar to the for loop. However, the I need to be outside the while loop. Otherwise, if you put inside, what happens is every time you go to loop, the counter reset to 0, and it will never be less than, it will always be less than 5, right? Then it will not end this condition because the counter will not increment. So this is a common mistake. If you want to use a while loop, be careful about that. So, and like I said,
I'm sorry, I did have a question.
Mhm.
Inside the loops, are the variables local? Like if I have 3 nested while loops and I try to use I for all of those, what happens?
That's a very good question. The scope of the thing can be best illustrated by a Python tutor, right? So that's why I highly recommend this this thing. Like typically you don't use the same variables in a nested loop because you will have a contention, right? For I in range 100, okay? For I in, sometimes you use J, right? Use different. So in range 10, right? And print I, okay? I guess let's just verify it, visualize it. And next. So you can see, okay, see this global from I equal to 0, and then 2, 3, 4. It's the inner loop, right? 9 and 10. Now I becomes 1, and then here it sets to 0 again. So you can see the I is always a global frame. So these two shares one variable in this case. So you can't use variable to that. For example, if I say I equal to 0, let's try a while loop, right? While I is less than 5, while I is less than 2, I guess, print I, and then I plus equal to 1, right? So I'm gonna increment I, print I in a 2 nested loop and use I as, that's not the right way to do, I guess, because you can see it's the same thing. This I is the same variable. So you are changing the I. So there's never a local variable to this incidental. Is that clear? Whenever you have a doubt, using Python tutor is your friend. Okay, did I answer your question? Use different variables, okay? That's the recommended way. That's the correct way. So with loops, basically you can actually have a lot of power to go through collections. That's very typical application when you use loops, right? Like collection of lists, you learn the list, tuple, sets, and dictionary, more importantly. And nested loops, like you have a dictionary of dictionaries, you have double, loop to go through all of them. Python has a lot of construct to embed a loop in this this thing. I think in this chapter we also talk about the keyword in or not in, right? You understand that. So in and not in can be used with a collection. So you already know that. Just give you a Boolean value. I guess we talk about mutuality and other. So string is not mutable and list is mutable. And that means you can modify the list, insert, add, delete, but the string, you can only copy a string to a new string and modify it that way, but you cannot modify the original string has been created in the first place. And I think, for the list, you have len and maximum, and the sorted function is also an important one. You can sort the list using that. You have min and max. So use that very carefully. So yeah, that's basically for the loops. Let me go back to our what is that? Handy dandy notes on the nested dictionaries, because that's the key thing that you need to iterate through. So you should be able to familiar with how to iterate through items in the dictionaries. I will post this material online, but here you go. You see here already. So dictionaries, basically you have a key or value, right? You can iterate through keys and values. All right, so let me just clear this. Let's give a dictionary. I don't know. Thing one doesn't work. Oh, probably permission. I'll fix that later. One and thing two. Okay, so that's a simple dictionary, right? You can also like this, and then I will say another dictionary, right? A, that's pretty complicated. A1A, you know, A, BA, and then B and VB. Okay, so that's pretty complicated, right? So how to iterate through all the keys? For key in D1, print. All right, let's just do this example first. So thing one, thing two, and this. These are the first level keys in the dictionary, right? Now you can say D1.keys. It's the same thing, right? D1 initial, this is same as D1.keys. Okay. Can I do D1.values? For value in the y values and print all the values. Okay, let me run it. Okay, you can see the value is 1, 2, and another dictionary, right? Okay, is there a way I could execute a function which is stored in a dictionary? Very good question. A function in Python, we haven't talked about a function yet. So function in Python is actually a first class citizen, meaning that you can pass it as a function parameter itself, right? Higher level functions, and it's all kind of like functional programming paradigm that we want to talk about this class. But so yeah, you can throw a function name around, and once you get the function name, right? I mean, we haven't talked about function yet, like define a function one, right? And you can say function two as your parameter, and you can run function two, right? And let's define a function two, which will just print I am fun. Come on, I am. Oh, very good question, very deep question. Function two. All right, so let's just. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's see. Oh, you need to basically call the function after you define it. We'll talk about that later. Function one. So we call function one, and it itself. Wait, what is going on here? I'm gonna function one. I'm gonna call function two. Right. So actually, to make things it's fun is the parameter, and then I'm gonna call this function, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, so missing one required person up in fun. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I have to provide a argument which is function two. Right, that's the name of the argument. I don't know if that works. Yeah, so here you go. This is pretty advanced, but it actually is not so tangential, but does that answer the question? Is the function which is stored in a dictionary? So yes, so basically you can store a dictionary, a function, like, let's see, boy, B. Let me give a like fun function name, and I'm gonna say fun. I don't know if that even possible. Probably not, because you haven't defined that functions. I don't know. 1, 2. So it's a string, right? And yeah, I guess but you can see that you can call the function like that. So and also there is also lambda function or anonymous function that you can store and evaluate. I guess there's a evaluate. So maybe you can evaluate this function. I don't know. It's pretty advanced. Let's talk about it another day. How about this? You'll save your question, and when we talk about function next week, let's talk about this. Okay. So yeah, let's not to deviate from this because a lot of you guys haven't learned function yet. So that's gonna be too confusing. No problem. Where we are. So we print the values, right? And then you can see the values. And we can also print both the key and values, like items. Okay. So items will give you, that's interesting. It returns a tuple at a time. So key value in items, and then print key value. So I'm going to print a pair at a time. Okay, so you can see thing 1, 1. I can even do this, right? I can make it formatted nicely. Key and value is a variable. Right, so I just need to do this. So now you can iterate through this key value pair and run it. And you can see the key value is being printed out. You can also print, okay, let's say if, right? If key is equal to this, right? So if key is this, then I'm gonna print its values. So I'm gonna do a nest loop, right? So for another key value in what? There are two ways to get the value from that key, right? So first way is D1, the dictionary, and dot get the key, right? And then return the value. That value is the self of dictionary, okay? And then I'm gonna say print secondary key value pair, and then I'm gonna say comma dot format key comma value. All right, so I'm gonna print the secondary there. Not enough values to unpack 2.1. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. This is items, right? Because you have to also, because dictionary has items, so you have to do that. Now here you go. So the outer loop will print key value pair, and inner loop is not basically printed out this secondary key value pair is AVA and BBB. All right, let me give you this link so you can play with it and or yourself. Is that clear? This is a fundamental way to iterate through dictionary. If there's no going once, going twice, okay? So you'll encounter this in your text-based game where you have a room and items, and the room has itself a dictionary of like each directions, north, south, east, west, and each direction will contain another room. So it's nested dictionaries. That's your friend, right? So you should be able to go through this. Just make sure that you understand at each stage what type of value it is, right? The value, so basically it's a key value, and the value could itself be another pair of key value. and then use for loop to iterate through them. So I think that's enough for the intro, right? List is about the same. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, there's a lot of dictionary functions. I'm just nested. Like here, right? I think did I mention the nested dictionary in one of the if statement, right? So you have a month, and each month has a name and days. So you can use this dictionary to your advantage. So if you want to answer like the second month of the year is the months, you can use square brackets. Oh, one more thing. What's the difference between the get key and I can also use this, right? D1 key. What's the difference? Can anybody tell me? It's basically two different ways to access the value in a dictionary with the key. So the square bracket is more like a array access method, right? But the key, there's a caveat is if the key does not exist, you will get a key error if you use the square brackets, right? I'll give you an example if I how do I, because these are all valid keys, right? Okay, I'm gonna just print, let's say print D1. Let's give the arbitrary key like doesn't exist, right? Say like, I don't know, no key, right? And if you print this, you get a key error. It says key error, no key. So the key does not exist. However, if you use get method, right? Dot get no key, not a key. If I do this, you will not get a key error. It will silently return a none, as a like nothing happened. You can also give them a second parameter. Maybe I give them a default value. Okay, so it will print out the default value if the key doesn't exist. It will print out whatever you supply to them as a default value on the second parameter. Any questions? So I recommend you get the key. Now, of course, it works if you assign the key to a dictionary, right? So if you like new key, right? New key. If you do assignment, like I am new, right? That's legal, right? You can add after that, you will have a new key here, and you can just print this because it's new. It will have no error, right? I'm new, okay? So use get method if you are not sure if you will get a key in the dictionary. Okay, so that's all the caveat of that. So maybe we should talk about Zybooks now, or let's see if there's, yeah. So here example, right? Second month of the year is the month the second, and then its name is February, and it has any dates. So you can see this is how you access the nested loop. So to and name. Oh, okay, yeah. So that reminds me. So if you want to print out this value B, you can print this D1's. First of all, you get the key. The first level key is this, right? And then the second level key is the A. See, like I want to get the key A. I print it out, and you can see the key A is VA, right? And same here, B is VB. Okay, so you just use this double bracket to indicate a second dimension. So every time you have a new nested one, you have a new dimension, right? Very good. How many dimensions are there in this universe? That's a question to the physicist. Some people say it's 11. Anyway, what's okay? So let's talk about the zyBooks, right? Let's say loops. Okay, so while loop, for loop, counting, nested loop, they'll program incrementally, break and continue. You know what the difference between break and continue? So break will immediately break out the loop. Continue means you skip this round and keep looping, okay? Continue is that. Yeah, it's clear. We are two-dimensional features, creatures. Yes, so continue like here. So if tacos plus is not equal to 0, then you just skip it. So continue to skip. Break is just to get out of sight, right? Okay, Simon says this is a very good game, so I encourage you to play or write. All right, what we can do here is, let's see, nested loops, break and continue. Oh, loop else. I feel like this is at least a common one that's being mentioned in this community. So what does this else statement do for the while? Physics. Physics is fun, you know. Okay, so if the expression is false, no. It's actually the thing is that means if the while loop is completely finished without a break, then you will jump to this else, right? So basically, if you have a break in the middle, actually part of your statement is true. So yes, while expression is false, you're right. If false, then go to the else statement, okay? Yeah, you can think about it that way, right? But this is too, I think maybe there's another way to think about it. If your while loop or for loop, it also applies for loop, finished without any break, then that means you're going to the end of the condition, you're jumping off the loop, you go to else and to continue doing that. So else statement is like you do something else after your loop is done without a break. If you have a break in between that condition, you jump off the loop without meeting the condition, right? You're not exiting the loop, how to say, regularly or by plan. Then the else is going to be skipped. Okay, see, I found this thinking maybe more reasonable, right? I mean, yes, what you said is true, actually, Rachel. Project for that, but yes. So basically, if you go through the while loop without any break, of course, the expression is going to be false, and you jump through the loop from the normal way, right? And then you continue with the else statement. However, if you have a break in between, I want to emphasize, then you will not hit the else statement. You will just skip that. It's useful when, like previously, we had some variable to indicate if you find a item in the list, right? And I said you can jump outside the loop using break early when you already find it. If that's the case, then you won't do anything. But if you okay, so let me actually like for I in range 100, and you need to do something, right? And if I is equal to 5, right, you break, right? And else, oops, not found, print not found. Okay, so basically what that means is if I break, that means I found a 5 and a break and I found it. If I didn't find 5, then this loop searched for all 100 numbers and didn't break, so I say not found, right? This is more natural, okay? Rather than just using a Boolean say found equal to false, right? This is another trick. And then you have to, before you break, you can have to say found equal to true, and then you can say you found whatever, right? So instead of doing that, you can just use that. Okay, so that's the else statement. And Rachel, very good, right? You know, read the details. Okay, so these are nice examples. Let's just jump into the labs. I think you're waiting for the labs. All right, so we don't have a lot of time left, so let's just go to the labs. Count input lengths without, is that lab? Yeah, count input lengths without space, period, commas. Oh, Jesus, did I give you the answer already? Don't look at that. Okay, so let's copy and, okay, so I'm not gonna erase this. So I'm gonna just comment out, right? Okay, so, all right, so lab, this is the condition. All right, give a line of text as input, a line, right? One line, out of a number of characters, excluding spaces, periods, or commas. So what you're gonna do with that, right? Well, lines equal to just one line text. Text is input, right? One line, okay, whatever. So I get a text, and then I'm gonna do count, right? There's multiple ways of doing that. Number of characters. Space, periods, or commas, right? So first of all, I want to do it iteratively. I want to count all the characters, right? There's a multiple way of doing that. Of course, I'm gonna do it because we just learned the for loop. Let's just using for loop in text, because you can actually loop in a string, right? I'm gonna just print it, just for debugging purpose. Okay, do you know what underscore means? Underscore means a variable that you don't care, but this time I want to print, so I do need to name it properly. And then I'm just say count plus equal to 1. Okay, and every time I just, and of course I have to initialize count equal to 0 outside the loop. Okay, that's very important. And then finally print count. Done. Run it. So let's just copy and paste this. Listen, Mr. Jones, calm down. Calm down. Paste and enter. So 29 characters, including space dot, right? Listen, Mr. Jones, calm down. All right. So actually I can say and equal to, space. So make it a little bit nicer, right? Right, just paste again. This is Mr. Jones, 29, right? So how to exclude those things? Well, you can use if statement, right? You can say if, what do you call it? If char in, let's say comma, right? And what else? Periods, and then what else? Come on. And spaces, right? Spaces. Actually, it's not. I'm going to use not, right? Not in then count equal to 1. Is that right? Anything wrong here? Colon. All right, so let's run. Actually, I'm not gonna print Control X. So I'm gonna print it if that is a valid character. Okay, let's print out. Paste again. Let's just do that. 15. All right. So print So anything that is not a space is being counted, right? Of course, we can verify this again, copy, run again, paste, and enter. 21 and verify. So this is a correct solution. Of course, this is better, right? Just doing this. So you can expand your list without do one if at a time. Got it? Of course, this can be omitted, right? You only need the count because otherwise it's gonna be problem. All right, 22 because I added a backslash. Okay, so that's lab 1. I'm gonna erase this, and then next lab is what? Password modifier. I like that. You're gonna use a lot of data structure here. So password modifier, and let me just paste it here. What's your thoughts on that? So again, there's a lot of things like we can also copy. Unfortunately, I didn't enter your password. Of course, in the actual Zybox, you don't necessarily need this because that will count as one output and give you error result, right? I'm just posting here so I know when I'm debugging it. So input text is this. So you ask you to output a text where you have the string, cut some character replaced. The answer was yeah. I mean, Python. The beauty of Python is you can use a very least number of lines to accomplish a lot. I mean, the idea behind it is data structure. If you use the right data structure, like I did here, then the code will be very, very short, right? Otherwise, you have a lot of statement that will be. So, what do you think? Anyone give me ideas? So the key is to replace one letter to another, right? What kind of data structure is suitable for this kind of thing? Like I say I, you say you, right? Whatever. This make a new string. Of course, we're gonna make a new string, but how? Convert a character one by one. Now string, you can concatenate them, but I would work with a list. You know what I mean, right? List is is a mutable, so you can actually free to, and it's less expensive to mutate, change a list rather than a string. You can copy, whatever. So I'm gonna change this to a list. How do I change this to a list? Input to list is input. There's split function, right? Use split function. Actually, I don't need that because you see, I can loop through a string, right? For again, you're familiar with this in input text, right? This is the for loop, and then what? Now, of course, you can also for I in string, right? Would be too expensive resource wise. So for in string, password plus, yeah, you concatenating strings in some language like Java, you're copying over. Yeah, you can do that, but I guess that's fine. This is perfectly fine. I mean, you just because you can copy that string and delete it, because Python is smart enough to not to create multiple copy of strings, and you can end up with just one string, so that's okay. Yeah, so So what? So I think the key here is I'm not going to give you the whole answer, otherwise it'd be too easy, right? I just want to give some ideas. So you can print, of course, the character. And then similar to that previous lab, right? If you encounter the I, I'm going to replace with that. I'm just asking you what data structure I should use to make it simplified. Previously, I used a tuple, right? A tuple. But a tuple is with single items. And if the item is in that tuple, I just skip it. But now I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to replace it, right? So how about I use a dictionary? Like right, actually, I'm going to enter a dictionary here, construct a dictionary D1, use better names here, right? Than I did here. So I for, you see what I'm doing? I and A become at. Okay, I'm gonna just do 2, right? So this is my dictionaries that I'm gonna replace with. So now you have ideas, right? So yeah, C in D1, right? If characters in D1, but then you have to go through and check if, oh yes, character in D1, right? Then the key exists. So you can say the value, so like input text plus equal D1's what? D1's key, right? Because it's safe to do this because you know that key existed. Otherwise, you just say D1 dot get key. Either way, right? So that will give you that key. Else, if not in D1, then input text plus equal to the original one without multiplication, right? So finally, you can print my input text. All right, and run. Maybe there's something wrong. So let's say my password. My password. Oh, I didn't clean the input text, right? I need to use the output text. Sorry, output text. Okay, key is immutable, right? I'm gonna have to use output. And then initialize output text is equal to empty string or whatever, right? Let me get it run again. Enter your passwords. It's passwords. So why I didn't replace that with at? Do you know? Let me just print those keywords and see if I can get a hint. My password. So only A is get printed, which is fine. And D1 get A. D1 get A should be at, right? Let me just print. Replace equal to D1 get ch. I'm gonna print rep, and I'm actually let me just print a ch rep. Okay, f string. So replace this with that. Okay, this is how I debug it. If you see the bug already, let me know. But that's, and then I'm just add this to IP replacement, right? And let's run it. So my password. So you can replace A with at, and Oh, you know what? Because I'm always printing out output text, input text. That's why. So where am I? There's nothing wrong. Yes, my p at ss word. Okay, so this should work. Any questions? Yes, always eliminate. So you're gonna expand that. Okay, so next is, do I need to go through next? I think with that you can drawing a right triangle. I don't want to iterate too much. You just need a nested two for loop, right? And then actually you don't even need a nested for loop here. You just need one loop, because I give you a trick, right? A trick is, let's see, this is a trick. If I print a symbol n times, I can say times 8, for example. I can get 8 characters, right? Let me just make it nicer. So you can see I'm going to print 8, 1 row, right? Now, if I want to have a for loop, I in range, like 5 levels, right? Print this symbol times I. Okay, what will happen? Expect the indentation. Okay, so yes. Okay, print the symbol times I. You can see it's gonna print out this. Hey, very similar to what you asked for, right? You just add more layers. So otherwise, you're gonna have another for loop to print this that many times, and you want to say and equal to space, so it won't go to the next line. But this is much shorter in Python, because Python can do this cool stuff, right? Not other language can do that. Try C or Java. All right, so that's that. That's a warm up. Very good. And you can draw all kinds of shape, or star, pyramid, diamond, you name it. There's actually a turtle, I don't want to say, MATLAB loops. So what do you say? So write program takes a string and an integer as input, okay? Output the sentence using input value and show an example below. Program repeats until the input string is quit. Okay, so what kind of loop is suitable? Repeat until, right? While loop. So while the input string is not quit, then you're gonna do this. Disregard the integer input that follows, okay? So so you just print the eating n apples a day, keep the doctor away. So the input is apple and that, right? And you just, so basically the data structure is like while input text is not equal to quit, right? So you're looking for that, then print input text. You ought to do something else, right? But I'm gonna wait. You're gonna put the input statement here. Let's this again, right? Because after you are there, you print it out, you have to do that again, and to get next again. Okay, let's run it. Oh, this is bad. I will tell you why. And then until password again. See, it never ends. Why? Why it never ends? Come on. Actually, you can do Control C. Yeah. So because this one, oh, sorry. What I'm thinking, it all ends because you haven't give the magic words yet. Okay, if I do quit, see, it quits, right? So quit is a magic words. It waits for that magic words and quits. So you get idea, and you can do those MATLAB thing in one. So not gonna repeat. All right. So, and I'm gonna erase this because you just get idea, but I don't want you to copy my code. All right. That's good. Any questions? If not, then that's the, just practice those dictionary list looping and string, even in string a list of character, right? In string, you can, and use, those data structures to your advantage. Cool?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any way you could show some examples or maybe some pointers on the pseudocode? Because I've been scratching my head at that one, and I'm finding that not really understanding it. I've looked at the the stuff you've given us to, and I'm still just
Even with
kind
that,
of lost.
yeah, the pseudocode I give to you is belong to Professor Lisa, and she kindly did those like example for those labs 3.11. You already did lab on the Python code. You can see those, things. It's basically like a natural language. You're free to invent your, well, basically they have the basic structure like the Python, right? So what I'm looking for is don't write Python code as a pseudocode, right? Obviously, that's a no-no. Other than that, everything is fair game. You can mimic the structure, but just be careful not to use Python syntax. No colon, no, but you can use some tabs here. So you can set the variable here and use the input as your input, and you can even use output as to replace the print statement, right? I know you can't help use print as the output, but use something else. And then if else, you can use those syntax too. That's very natural in any language, including and there's logical and or not, right? And for loops, while loop. You can use while loop and for loop as your syntax, like pseudocode. I guess maybe that's, and then there's a free online pseudocode editor, right? While input, user input is not like quit, right? And output, like user input, and for and while, right? Something like that, and then do something else. But just don't make it too similar to like Python code. It's basically to express idea. You can even say, process, user input, right? How to process, you can even use if user input is greater than, or you can use greater than, no problem, like 100, right? 100. You want to say output, good job, right? And maybe else, and else if. Yeah, I think that syntax highlighter is pretty good. Basically, looking for some structured languages. No, it's not. There certain textbooks has a different pseudocode. No, it's pseudocode is basically there's no definite standard. Otherwise, there's going to be another language, right? A standard and scheme. But yeah, like flowchart, you're free to choose some basic shapes, but make more sense. All right. As long as not
I appreciate
Python.
that.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, then have a good week. And yeah, you guys did pretty well on the labs and exercises. And if you need more challenge, let me know. But I think you're busy to go through your project. So yeah, I will let you do that. And then we can talk about more fun games, right? If time permits, I may have an extra lecture example of a game, like text 2D games, right? And how to use Python concept, like tic-tac-toe or some other fun small games. Okay, Anyway, have a good night. Bye.